You're listening to Midlife Side Quest, the Over the Hill Gaming Podcast. Here's your host, John Wall.
It's August 29th, 2024, and welcome to another episode of Midlife Side Quest, the Over the Hill video game podcast. My name is John Wall, and every Thursday morning I bring you the latest video game impressions, industry news, and tales of a Gen X geek delivered to you in about 15 minutes. To ensure that you never miss an episode, you can subscribe to the show on all major platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And it would be wonderful if you left a review while you're there to help spread the word about the show. I'm happy to have you here today because on this episode, I'm going to be talking about Banishers, Ghosts of New Eden. But first, I'm sending out this week's positive vibes to Alex Van Aken. I first became aware of Alex's work nearly a decade ago, I think, when he was at OK Beast. He was a fellow indie games content creator, but the work that they were doing over there stood out because of the positive energy that they all seemed to exude, and truly great looking videos, the high quality production values. It was no surprise when Alex got a job at Game Informer as their lead video editor. The guy just has a knack for cinematography that led to some amazing videos for GI. Well, with the recent closure of Game Informer, Alex is once again going independent and has started a Patreon for his new project, Viewport. He'll be creating video game documentaries in his signature style. And if you'd like to lend your support, you can go to patreon.com/viewportvideo. I'm a supporter, which also gets you access to the Viewport Discord channel, and I am very excited to see what he'll be creating in the future. On-location shooting isn't cheap, so if you enjoy this kind of behind-the-scenes game industry coverage, I'm sure he would appreciate you checking it out. There was a little bit of a lull last month where there weren't too many big new releases dropping, and that's a great opportunity to go back and look at some games from earlier in the year that you passed by or maybe just didn't have time for when they came out. I looked into a bunch of games that seemed interesting and finally decided to pull the trigger on Banishers, Ghosts of New Eden. I chose that one for a couple of reasons. First, I had heard from a number of people who really enjoyed it and thought it was kind of a hidden gem among this year's releases. And second, it comes from publisher Focus Entertainment, who I think puts out some really interesting games like Plague Tale and World War Z, and also developer Don't Nod, who I'm also a big fan of. If you know Don't Nod, it's most likely for one of their narrative adventure games like Life is Strange, Tell Me Why, or the upcoming Lost Records Bloomin' Rage. Well, this game is absolutely not in the style that the studio is typically known for. In fact, it's a full-blown action RPG, complete with side quests, color-coded loot, and skill trees. But something it does have in common with their previous games is that the best parts of Banishers are definitely the writing, the storytelling, and the cast of characters. The game takes place in the year 1695, and you play as a pair of protagonists, Antea Duarte and Red McCraith, who are romantically involved and also partners who work together as Banishers, supernatural experts who are hired when a town or home is being tormented by undead spirits. The duo travel to New England after receiving a letter from their mentor who needs help with a particularly nasty spirit who has cursed the town of New Eden. And when they arrive, they find a town that is in rough shape, let's say. And when Antea and Red confront this powerful ghost, they realize they were vastly overpowered, and Antea is killed in the confrontation. So Red awakens in a cave along the shore after being saved by a mysterious friend, and after regaining his strength and attempting to go back to town, he discovers that he's being followed by another ghost, that of his dead love, Antea. She herself is now trapped in between the land of the living and the dead, and with strange new abilities gained as a spirit, she and Red decide that they need to come up with a plan and find a way to return to New Eden to banish this powerful creature once and for all and free Antea from this purgatory. It's a great setup for a story, and the struggle that the two of them face dealing with the shock and the grief of Antea's sudden death is quite well done. The quality of the writing is really good, and the voice acting really drives home the pain of losing a loved one suddenly, and ultimately the choice that they'll have to make regarding Antea's fate, a decision that will come down to you as the player to help decide. And it's not just the story of Red and Antea that is so well done. As you make your way back to New Eden, you'll come across haunting cases, which are quests with folks who are also being tormented by spirits and in need of your help to find peace. These quests are by and large really well done and interesting. There's the tale of a grieving husband who attempts to use magic to bring his wife back to life, but it goes horribly wrong because he screws up the spell. Or the trappers who get lost in the woods and resort to drastic measures to survive. At the end of each case, you'll need to decide if you want to forcefully banish the spirit or give them a peaceful ascent to the afterlife. And how you choose to deal with these spirits will guide you to different endings of the game. So I'm clearly a big fan of the storytelling here, but how does the gameplay hold up its end of the bargain? Well, I think mostly pretty good. When playing as Red, you can use your sword for melee attacks and a rifle for a powerful ranged attack when you're fighting spirits and monsters. The rifle is strong, but it's also a single shot that you need to reload each time. So you need to be careful about how you choose to use it. And the melee attacks build up a meter that lets you unleash a powerful strike, which will take down most enemies in one hit. Then at any time, you can switch to Antea, who has physical attacks, which are particularly strong against spirits, and a series of special abilities, which you'll unlock over the course of the game. It's a lot of fun jumping back and forth between the two of them in battle, and you'll fall into a rhythm of using their different abilities for different occasions. But the actual physicality of the combat feels a little mushy. I'm not quite sure how else to describe it. But the moment from pressing the button to when you strike or when you block, it just feels slightly off. There's a crispness to when combat is done right that just feels satisfying. And this just doesn't quite get there. Another thing that I wasn't in love with were the more RPG-like elements of the game. There's new gear to collect, and you can upgrade them by collecting resources in the world, but I never quite knew what I was working towards because the materials you need are so oddly named, and there's a lot of different ones, so okay, I found 3 translucent fungus and a decaying leapfrog, but what the heck does that mean? What does that get me? And there are skill trees, because of course there are skill trees, but there was just too many choices for me. You unlock a new tree with each ability that Antea gains, and aside from a few cases, I couldn't really decide which to unlock because most of them seem to have, negative effects to offset the benefits. So I just kind of randomly pick one. It's the same issue I had with the last God of War game, and I'm kind of over giant sprawling skill trees in games. I'm totally okay if we chill out on that for a bit. So the gameplay bits of Banishers I found to be good, but not outstanding. After 30 or so hours, I was kind of getting bored with the playing of the game, but everything else from the presentation to the characters and the story I found really well done, and that carried me through to the end. The love story of Red and Antea is genuinely touching and sincere. I do think that this one flew a little bit under the radar this year, and I recommend it if you enjoy action RPGs like The Witcher. That I think you should check this out, especially if it ends up on a sale later this fall. For many people, this week is the unofficial final week of summer. Man, the Minnesota State Fair, which is going on right now, kind of marks that end of summer, and it runs through Labor Day. I'm planning on going tomorrow, I think, and I'm going to stuff my face with Pronto Pups and mini donuts. Then on Wednesday, the kids are heading back to school, and hell, it's pretty much Halloween after that. I know that time seems to be moving faster as I get older, but wow, this summer in particular seemed to just pass by in the blink of an eye. Part of that I'm sure is because I was, kind of out of commission for most of it, and I wasn't able to get out of the house much, but man, where has the year gone? Last week's question for Polling at Threads was, what is your favorite Square Enix RPG series? And unsurprisingly, I think Final Fantasy came out on top with 43% of the vote. The classic Chrono Trigger series came in second with 29%. Dragon Quest brought in 18%, and in a bit of a surprise to me, considering how passionate the fan base is, Kingdom Hearts comes in last with only 11% of the vote. Man, where were all those Sora fans at? King Mickey. Anyway, after the disastrous box office for the Borderlands film, it seems to me that video game adaptations are having much greater success on television. So this week's Polling at Threads question is, which of these video games would make the best prestige television series? And I'm not going to include series that have already been kind of announced or rumored, like God of War or Horizon. So your choices are Alan Wake, Elden Ring, Mass Effect, or Metroid. So which one of those would make the best big budget prestige television shows? Go visit Midlife SideQuest on Threads after the show to cast your vote, and I'll share the results on next week's episode. Thank you so much for listening to Midlife SideQuest. I appreciate you making time in your day to hang out with me. You can catch a new episode of the show every Thursday morning wherever you listen to podcasts, and don't forget to subscribe and leave a review while you're there. You can also follow me on Threads by looking for Midlife Side Quest if you'd like to chat. And until next week, be well and happy gaming.